A good morning to everybody. Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. It is Sunday, September 7th. It is officially a game day for the San Francisco 49ers. They are on the road to take on the Seattle Seahawks this afternoon. We'll be live right here on the channel for a watch party, the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications and join us because it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do a little bit of a pregame show too, and we're also going to do a little bit of an NFL Red Zone pregame show just to take a look around the NFL as far as what is going on across the league. And then once the game goes down, we'll be live for that, live for a postgame show, reacting to everything that transpires between the Niners and the Seahawks. Coming up on this show, I'm going to be joined by Will Ortner. He is the host of our Seahawks channel here at Chat Sports, and we're going to give you a full-fledged preview for this Niners-Seahawks Week 1 matchup. And the insight from Will, I think, is fantastic. I mean, he grew up as a diehard fan of the Seahawks. Now he's covering Seattle professionally, and it gives us a look behind enemy lines for what to expect from the opponent for San Francisco in this game. And his insight, really good as a former college football player. So be sure to just kick it with us. Hang out for the next half hour, 40 minutes as we dive into this Niners-Seahawks game. But since we recorded this show the other day, I just want to give everybody a brand new update with what is going on with Christian McCaffrey. And to really set the foundation, it has been a wild ride the last few days. On Wednesday, Christian McCaffrey was a full participant in practice. And all throughout training camp, all throughout the preseason, even though he hasn't played in the preseason, he's been healthy. He's been looking good. After playing 4 games last year when he had a calf and Achilles problem, and then once he came back, played those 4 games, didn't find the end zone, didn't look the same. Then once he started to find a groove and catch a gear against the Bills in the snow, injured his knee on that shoestring tackle. He was out for the year. It was a disastrous year for him, coming off that 2023 season where he had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, and he was top 5 in MVP voting. We're talking about a player here, number 23, who when he is healthy is truly special. One of the most dynamic players in all of football. And he completely changes this Niners offense. And so Wednesday, full participant. Great. Niners getting prepared for Seattle. Thursday, he becomes a limited participant with a dreaded calf issue. On Friday, he was a non-participant at practice. Usually when players do not practice on Friday, it's pretty damn rare that they play in the game on Sunday. But McCaffrey, a non-participant in practice, but he was in uniform, wearing a helmet, bouncing up and down, doing some quick twitch explosive stuff on a side field, clearly testing out that calf injury. And you're thinking, if he's really that hurt, would he be doing that? Especially with his injury history that he too acknowledged and said, when you've been injured like I've been injured, that's why people are going to be concerned when I pop up on the injury report. And so during his press conference on Friday, Kyle Shanahan did not seem happy, right? And he said, I'm not going to talk about Christian McCaffrey. The only thing that he said when asked about his concern level was questionable concern, because Christian McCaffrey is being listed as questionable for this game. Literally moments later, McCaffrey is in the locker room and he said, I feel great. My plan is to play, and we're just being cautious given my injury history. Then Ian Rappaport reported on Saturday that while McCaffrey is questionable, all signs point to him playing in this game. I'm not believing anything until I see Christian McCaffrey, number 23, rocking a white Niners uniform on the field against the Seahawks for Week 1. Because if you remember going into Week 1 last year, Niners were preparing to take on the New York Jets. Christian McCaffrey popped up late in the week on the injury report with a calf problem. He was a late scratch. It came as a surprise to a lot of people. He was inactive for that game. Next thing we know, He was out for the first 2 months of the year. So Christian McCaffrey can say, I feel great. My plan is to play. He was saying the same stuff last year, that my plan is always to play. He's a competitor. Of course, he's going to have that mentality. And Rappaport can say, all signs point to him playing, but I'm not buying into anything. I'm not believing anything until we see McCaffrey on the field. And if he is on the field, I need to see him healthy. So that is the Christian McCaffrey update in the lead up to kickoff here. And now I really encourage all of you to watch this show coming up. Niners Seahawks preview, where we go through everything that you need to know as a fan from the Niners point of view and the Seahawks point of view. And it's all coming up. What I want to do more of this year, and I talked about it here when I was joined by Will Ortner, I want to bring on more hosts from Chat Sports who cover the teams that the Niners play, because I think we have some supremely talented and gifted people as broadcasters. And I think viewers will be the winners at the end of the day because you become more informed. So that's coming up right now. Thanks for watching this update, and continue to hang out here with us here on the 49ers Report. All right, here we go. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. He is Will Ortner. Coming up on today's show, we are going to preview this Niners-Seahawks Week 1 matchup. And what I want to do more of this year, a lot of you who watch this show, you see me go on with Larry Krueger on The Krug Show on his YouTube platform. And I kind of want to do something similar here on this program as well, in addition to continuing to do that, by bringing on other hosts here at Chat Sports. We have a team channel for nearly 32 teams in the National Football League full-time, and we cover all 32 teams in the NFL. And so with that, I welcome on Will Ortner, new to the company here at Chat Sports. I'm excited to talk to him because he's got some great Seahawks insight. He is a diehard Seahawks fan since birth. He is from the Pacific Northwest. He knows the ins and outs of this football team. And so I do want to begin there because, Will, this Niners-Seahawks rivalry, historic. Sometimes it gets bloody, very physical, very passionate. Both of these fan bases do not like one another. Just off the top of your brain, some of the most vivid Seahawks-Niners memories for you as a Seahawks fan throughout your lifetime.
Oh, come on. Number one's got to be Richard Sherman. I mean, when you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're always going to get. I remember the place I was at. We had just moved into our house in Vancouver with my parents. I was a high schooler at the time. Richard Sherman actually is one of my favorite. He might be my favorite football player of all time, just because he's a communication major such as myself. He always talked about wanting to be a journalist, and basically ever since he had that Skip Bayless "I'm better at life than you" take, I've always loved him. That was always something that just like drew me to him. I have an autograph of him, by the way, probably the only one to ever have an autograph of an Oregon State Beavers hat from Richard Sherman. And I still loved him when he defected to your guys' side. But I think for me, when it comes to what's the number one rivalry, it's either the Sherman-Crabtree rivalry or it's just flat out that Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh hated each other.
Yes, for a long time.
So funny watching those two, because they took it from Stanford and from USC, took it all the way to San Francisco and Seattle. And it just made for a great rivalry. It made for two teams who were great at the same time and who hated each other. It's why we love sports.
No doubt about it. And for a long time, it was Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, Seattle dominating Jim Harbaugh, the San Francisco 49ers. And then once Kyle Shanahan got hired after a couple of bad coaching hirings for San Francisco, he even struggled early on against Pete Carroll and Seattle. But recently, this rivalry has more so shifted toward the sideline of the San Francisco 49ers. Will talks about some of his most vivid memories as a Seahawks fan. From the Niners' point of view, how about rookie Dre Greenlaw, the hit on Jacob Hollister on the goal line with Fred Warner right behind him, stopping Seattle from getting into the end zone. So that's kind of a preview, what you're going to get here on today's show. But what we're going to do all year long, because, again, we have some very talented hosts here at Chat Sports who certainly know ball. Will, I want to begin here, too, just talking about this game and the Seahawks, specifically modern day. The biggest thing to me about the Seahawks going into 2025, I think they're underrated. You know, this is a team that won 10 games last year, nearly made the playoffs, gave away a few games, so that win total could have been a little bit higher. They are plus 550 to win the NFC West going into this year. That is fourth among the 4 NFC West teams. Do you agree that the Seahawks, year 2 of Mike McDonald, being slept on a little bit?
Of course I agree with you. Of course I'm going to back my boys. Maybe there's a slight bias there, but in my eyes, you're taking a team that last year, frankly, couldn't run the football in Ryan Grubb's offense. That's your old offensive coordinator. I don't know, Chase, if you're a big college football fan.
Yes,
Did
I
you
am.
watch the Alabama-Florida State game? What'd you notice that the Crimson Tide couldn't do? They couldn't run the freaking football, and that's what we saw all year last year in Seattle, and that team still went out and won 10 games. Now, I get it. It's a Clint Kubiak system. The 49ers are going to know it well. He is a disciple of Shanahan. But in my eyes, that offense is better equipped for longevity and success in the NFL. You're built off running the football early in games, but you're running the football in that outside zone scheme. So that hole can open up anywhere. There's times where, hey, the right tackle is going to get the reach. It's going to hit outside. That's what we call the bounce of the football as a former offensive lineman. There are going to be times where, hey, the right tackle doesn't get the reach, but the right guard does. Now that's called the banging of the football. Or you're talking about that one cut. Hey, the running back is reading the butt of the tackle. As soon as he sees the tackle doesn't have that reach, now his eyes go inside to where the guard's at. And what you saw a lot in the preseason with the Seahawks was what we call the bend of the football. And that's where no one essentially gets a reach, but everyone gets washed all the way down, and you can cut back all the way across the grain. When I was playing football at Central Washington University, what we talked about as offensive linemen are the 3 Bs when it comes to zone schemes: the bang, the bounce, and the bend. And the beauty of those schemes when it comes to zone is it's going to be the same play, but where the hole opens up is always different. You're just looking for one offensive lineman to win one matchup. And if you can do that and the running back sees it, you can have big gains in the ground game. So for me, watching what this Seahawks team is turning into, it's just fascinating. And I love it. I love that interior offensive line play. I love seeing Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet excel in the preseason, Charbonnet especially. And so in my eyes, yes, they're underrated because people are looking at the wrong things. They're looking at, hey, they couldn't run the football last year. Why would they be able to run the football this year? Well, the scheme's different. Hey, they lost their quarterback. Geno Smith threw the ball at a highly efficient rate. And, you know, aside from the turnovers, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Well, guess who else was one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year? Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, in a couple of different stats, was a top 5 QB in the league. People just forget about it because
MVP race there for a while.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's because he had a couple bad games at the very end. And that's what we all remember because we have such short attention spans, myself included. So when I look at this team, I've just gone through a list of offensive reasons why the team's going to get better. And I didn't even get to anything on the defensive side of the ball, which is where your head coach majors in, right? So yes, the Seahawks are underrated. Am I also biased in the fact that I already took that bet and I am screaming from the mountaintops that they are not just a playoff team, but a team that should be playing in the divisional round? 100%. And I do own that.
Great insight right there. Former college football player, still has that build. He can get out in space on those pull blocks. We kind of call him a Lane Johnson lookalike here at Chat Sports. By the way, hit that subscribe button here on the 49ers Report. This is also probably going to play on Seahawks Today. So Seahawks fans, we're talking to you as well. Hope you're enjoying the conversation. Hit that sub button on Seahawks Today as well. Will's been here for about a month, and he's been crushing it. You said a lot there with that response to me, and it was all great stuff. Couple of things, though, that have some ties to the 49ers. Clint Kubiak is now the offensive coordinator. He replaces Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb's teams have struggled to run the football. Even back at Washington, when Washington made it to the national championship, they were very reliant on Michael Penix and a couple of NFL caliber wide receivers. Kubiak, though, is of the Kyle Shanahan tree, outside zone. You find a lot of success running the football. That's the backbone of this offense. But while you have coaching that can cater to the run game being better than it was last year, the running back position for the Seahawks is a little bit murky going into this year, right?
Yeah, it is going to be murky, and honestly, I love that. I want it murky. I think to survive in today's NFL, you need 2 running backs. Now, if you're lucky enough, like, let's be honest, when Christian McCaffrey is clicking on all cylinders, you don't need 2 running backs with Christian McCaffrey. He can do it all. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a good pass blocker, although you're not going to want to use him that much in that because you want to get him the ball in space, and you want to allow him to run the football as a traditional running back. There are very few of those running backs in the NFL today in my eyes. And I also think if you want to talk about the long-term success of your team, not just looking at 1 year in a vacuum, I'm talking about multiple years. If you don't have a Christian McCaffrey, if you don't have a Saquon Barkley, if you don't have a Tennessee Titans version of Derrick Henry, you should use 2 running backs. I've been screaming from the mountaintops, basically the last year or so, that Seattle has 2 running backs. Kenneth Walker was unbelievable in his first year. And then he took a slight step back. And then last year, it's not his fault. He got banged up. He missed 6 games. He only played in 12, right? Or 5 games, whatever the math is.
Yeah.
He missed some games, right? He missed time. Well, when he was missing time, guess who stepped up and played at a high level? Zach Charbonnet. Last year, when you look at their stats, they're essentially the same, and they both essentially have about the same starts as a starting running back. So in my eyes, if I can keep Kenneth Walker healthy and make sure that I get him 15 to 20 touches a game, but I can also at the same time have a Zach Charbonnet, who I believe would be a number 1 running back on probably half of the teams in the NFL.
Handful at least, yeah.
Why don't I use both of them? I've got a Charbonnet who's a little bit better as a pass protector. Well, I should use him more on third downs. Charbonnet's also better at catching the ball out of the backfield. Perfect. Kenneth Walker, though, when he gets gone, there's no one that's going to be able to keep up and catch up to him at that running back position. So I don't want to take away carries from him. I think there's a version of this team that looks similar to what the Detroit Lions have. You can't tell me that the Lions are not balancing Gibbs and Montgomery perfectly. It keeps both of those guys healthy, but it also keeps them consistently rolling through the year at a high level. Montgomery gets most of the touchdowns. Gibbs gets a lot of the yardage on it, and it works, and it fits that offense. I think that Seattle can create something similar to that with Kenneth Walker and with Charbonnet. It just might not be called Sonic and Knuckles.
I mean, look at the 49ers. They have Christian McCaffrey, but they made that trade for Brian Robinson, and a lot of the talk coming out of Niners HQ is that because of his physicality, his straight line ability, he can help to really open up Kyle Shanahan's offense. Let's shift to the defensive side of the ball. The big boy, defensive tackle, Jaron Reed, 6'3", 315. He thinks that the Seahawks can be the best defense in the NFL in 2025. Now, you might look at the long body of work for Seattle last year and say they struggled, and the 49ers won that early game at Lumen Field, but they made improvements as the year progressed. Over the final 8 games of 2024, Seattle number 6 among the 32 teams in the NFL in defensive EPA. Mike Macdonald, great defensive coordinator at Michigan. Really great defensive mind with the Baltimore Ravens. He's caused fits for Kyle Shanahan. Is that the potential that the Seahawks defense has to be the best in the league? Obviously, sky-high expectations. But, look, I think the point here is they have the talent and the coaching to potentially be a top 10 unit this year.
Yeah, I think if they're outside of the top 10, that's going to be a disappointing year for most Seattle Seahawks fans. When I look at this defense last year, you talked about the totality of it not being a great defense for the whole year, and then you talk about them being a top 6, the back half of the year. That sounds about right.
Final 8 games, so almost half of the year, yeah.
Well, that's right around when Ernest Jones IV got traded for, and he came over to Seattle. That's right around when Tyrese Knight, the Will linebacker, started becoming a starter for the Seahawks. So what you have to notice, and a lot of people who are on the outside looking in don't notice, and I don't blame anyone for that, because it would be the same thing for me with the 49ers or the Rams or whatever team you want to throw in there, because if you're not a diehard of a team, you just aren't going to know as much as the diehards. But I am a diehard of the Seahawks. And so I know that Ernest Jones wasn't that starting linebacker. In fact, both your Mike linebacker and Will linebacker positions, they were completely different starters at the end of the year. The 2 guys who were in those positions weren't even on the roster at the end of the year. That's how poorly they performed. What McDonald saw was, hey, those guys aren't playing at a level I need them to. And he went out and he grabbed Ernest Jones in a trade. And then they promoted Tyrese Knight up. And I'm a little bit worried about how he's going to perform week 1. He's missed most of training camp with a knee injury. He was recovering from his surgery, but then he also had this weird, hey, he's got a medical issue, so he's sitting out, but no one really knows, and they're not really saying because they don't have to and they don't want to. But if he's able to play at the same level that he did at the end of the year when he became the starter, this defense is really freaking good. Now you're talking about year 2 of Byron Murphy, a first-round pick that everyone said had the talent and maybe the best talent when it came to the defensive players in that draft. He played fine last year. he can take another step forward. They always say the biggest growth is between year 1 and year 2. Well, now's the time to show everyone. You're going to be a starter at that nose guard position. Can you take that step forward? Big Cat, Leonard Williams was unbelievable last year in that DN position. Can he continue to grow? Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, Uchenna Nwosu when he comes back from his injuries. Oh, by the way, we have DeMarcus Lawrence, and I know that he's older, but those are 4 really freaking good edge rushers that you've got. And I haven't even got into the real strength of this defense, which is that defensive back unit. And you might have the biggest wild card in Nick Eamon-Worry. If Nick Eamon-Worry can reach his true potential.
Athletic freak, man.
Dude, it's unbelievable. He's 99
ridiculous.
percentile on every testing metric except for like height because he's like 6'3". But still, it's
only 6'3".
Yeah, only he's short to me.
Yeah.
But when you look at this defense, yes, they have the potential to reach all these things. And I think that if you look at the end of last year, they've proven that they can be a top 10 defense. The question is, will they? They have to hit the ground running. And frankly, like most teams in the NFL, you have to stay healthy.
It's a big reason why I think this Niners-Seahawks game is going to be one of the best of opening weekend on this Sunday slate. We'll get to our sponsor here in a second, Chip. Still to come. New look Seahawks offense that we have to talk about. I think they crushed it with the draft pick along the offensive line, a player who I really liked for the San Francisco 49ers. All that and more coming up. Chase Senior, Will Ortner here with you. But first, today's show is sponsored by our friends at Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good and great to be right. Prize Picks, very simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can win up to 2,000 times your money and cash in big time. What I also like, all withdrawals. Fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits. And it's the best place to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and get $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Also, some great specials on Prize Picks seemingly every day. For week 1, all Dak Prescott has to do, for instance, is throw for more than a half passing yard. Obviously, he's going to do that, right? So get $50 when you play $5. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Real money sports action made easy. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's program. So I queued this up for you, but a new look offense here. You have Kubiak as the new OC and play caller. He replaces Ryan Grubb. Sam Darnold in, Geno Smith traded to the Raiders. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett out. Cooper Kupp in alongside Jackson Smith and Jigba, and obviously Kubiak, a Kyle Shanahan disciple. So what are your expectations for that unit? You talked briefly about Sam Darnold earlier. Yes, he had that kind of outlier for how his career has gone last year when he was terrific. Does that continue? Does he need complementary pieces around him? Are you concerned with this offensive line? Your thoughts on the Seahawks offense going into 2025?
Frankly, in the preseason, and I understand that it is the preseason, that offensive line really jumped off the page to me at how well they were playing. Anthony Bradford's going to be your starting right guard, and Seahawks fans are going to know this when I say this. Anthony Bradford last year basically was the bane of my existence and probably the bane of most Seahawks fans' existence. Every time you had an explosive play, he got called for a hold. Every time that you had a dumb offsides penalty on a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, it felt like it was him. Every time he could kick this team in the groin and stop an offensive drive, it felt like he did it. It doesn't seem like that is going to be the case this year. In the preseason, he came back. He wasn't sloppy fat, right? 325 pounds. He looks as lean as he possibly can at that size. No one's going to look lean, but you can look like it's more muscle as opposed to fat, and he's clearly taken that step forward. I also love the athleticism that you're getting at center in Jalen Sundell. It's not fair to compare him to Jason Kelce, but I'm going to do that because it's a similar style
athletic
of how
traits.
that exactly. Yeah. Jason Kelce, he's probably the best center that we've seen in the last decade, maybe even greater than that. But what Sundell is able to do is similar to him. He's undersized. So that means he has to be quick off the ball. That means he has to be fast and make sure that he's using proper technique. He was doing that to the umpth degree when it came to the preseason, and you saw a lot of big runs get sprung by him because when we're talking about that bend of the football, well, if the center's washing that middle linebacker all the way by, that running back can cut off underneath it. Now there's that big run, and that's because of what Sundell was doing. Offensively, for me, Sam Darnold, you know what you are, man. You're not going to be Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to be Josh Allen. So be a game manager. And I don't know why in the NFL it's become a dirty word, and I know it affects your quarterback greatly, where, oh, he's a game manager, and everyone acts like I'm out here insulting his mother.
Not a bad thing, yeah.
It is not a bad thing. You're a chess master. You're a game manager because you're making sure that you do everything to win the ball game. When Russell Wilson was at his best in Seattle, wasn't when he was cooking. It was when he was being a game manager. Hold on to the football. Make the right throws. Don't turn the ball over. Put your team in a position where it's third and manageable. If you're right around the 50-yard line, give yourself a shot if you want to go for it on fourth down. And don't turn the freaking ball over. That was an issue that he had in New York. That's why Sam Darnold didn't work with Adam Gase. Adam Gase tried to make him into being Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. You know what they asked him to do in Minnesota? Get the ball to playmakers. Get the ball out in space quickly. We're going to run the football at a high rate. So that way when we are working through the play action pass, you're throwing the football to a wide open target. That's what Clint Kubiak wants to do with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold knows what he is now. It took him a little bit. He's 28, 29. I don't think he's quite 30, but he's in the elder years of his NFL career. He knows what he is. So just be what you are. If Sam Darnold does that, the Seahawks team's going to be just fine offensively.
It's funny because the term game manager has such a negative connotation on things like social media, right? Which obviously social media can be a cesspool. But I guarantee you that there are coaches and quarterbacks and offensive staffs who during game planning, one of their keys, or at least a consistent key, is for the quarterback to manage the game. And honestly, if I'm the quarterback and the coach is asking me to manage the game, I almost take that as a compliment, right? You trust me as the CEO of the offense, an extension of you, to manage the football game. Sometimes you have to get the ball out on time, in rhythm, precision-like throws to your playmakers, especially in this Kyle Shanahan offense, where you need to be accurate so that your weapons can pick up yards after the catch. You don't want to force the issue. And you know what? Sam Darnold learned that type of mentality a lot from his time with Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, and the San Francisco 49ers. Some injury news I want to hit on the Niners front. This is pretty significant here because we've talked about this plenty. Under Kyle Shanahan since 2017, the Niners have been top 10 in injury rate every year except for 2023. During training camp, throughout the preseason, they were a very banged-up team. Back at practice today, Jordan Watkins, Jordan James, Yetur Gross-Matos. Every member of this Niners team on the 53 is healthy, able to suit up and play for the Niners in this Week 1 game. And the big name there, certainly the rookie fourth-round pick Jordan Watkins out of Ole Miss, the only player at the wide receiver position in college football last year to have 5+ catches of 60 yards. He also had that 50-yarder preseason Week 1 from Mac Jones. The Niners were counting on him to be a factor with the 4.443 speed, picking up yards after the catch, making plays downfield, serving as a threat for this Niners passing game. We've heard Kyle Shanahan say, we want to get faster. Watkins can help there. We'll see if he can play Week 1, but him back at practice this early, coming off that high ankle sprain, significant news for San Francisco. Before we dip on out of here, just from the Seahawks perspective, I know you've done your preview already. You went through your keys to the game. What are your keys to the game for the Seahawks to exploit and beat the 49ers?
First, before I dive into those, I got 4 of them, but I do want to say you're going to like Jordan James in San Francisco.
Oh, like Jordan James a lot, yes.
You're going to like him a lot. As a former Oregon Duck reporter, I would tell you right now, my time getting to watch him in Eugene, he's a strong kid, physical, runs the ball
contact
well.
balance.
It's
didn't fumble at all at Oregon.
Didn't fumble at all. And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, Oregon bought the best offensive line. They bought this, they bought that. Guess what? You're still playing against Ohio State. You're playing against Michigan. You're playing against some of the top teams in all of college football. Never fumbled once. He played at an incredible rate. I think if they wanted to run the football more with him and rely on him in that offense, they would have won just as many games. That's how highly I think of Jordan James. So you got a good one there. I was not happy. There were some words that I will not repeat on this show that were uttered out of my mouth and sent into the family group chat when Jordan James got taken by San Francisco. When I look at this game for Seattle, the keys for me offensively, you need to pound the rock, PTR. This Clint Kubiak offense is built on the play-action pass game off the run game. You need to run the ball at a level to where San Francisco has to add another guy into the box. Defensively, all you want to have established in the run game is one person for every gap. That's how most defenses like to attack a rushing scheme from an offense. If you are running the ball at a rate where you're getting 4, 5, 6 yard chunks at a time, defenses are going to have to commit an extra guy to the box. If San Francisco has to do that to stop Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, you now have one-on-one matchups on the outside that you can exploit. Also, in the play-action pass game, it makes life easier on Sam Darnold if you're running the ball well, because when defenses read run first and they've been getting gashed all day, they don't want to get yelled at by their coach because they missed another gap assignment. They come up, and that leaves open windows to pass the ball in. I like the explosiveness of Seattle at that wide receiver position. I think Cooper Kupp, Yakima's finest, by the way, I believe that he has an opportunity to really reestablish himself as still a viable wide receiver candidate in the NFL. Last year, obviously, wasn't going his way. He was banged up. I'm not saying that he's going to return into what he was at his peak, but you can still be 80% of that and be very successful in this league. Jackson Smith-Njigba, just like the Seahawks, he's vastly underrated. In my eyes, that's a top 10 receiver, and right now, he's lucky if he gets an honorable mention when people list their top 10. I think he is going to be able to exploit a lot of one-on-one matchups in man schemes, and he knows when to sit down in zones. I would like Seattle to have at least 5 explosive plays in this game. In my eyes, those are 20-yard runs or higher, or 30 yards receiving or higher on a play. Defensively, you need to turn the ball over. For every good thing that they did last year in Seattle defensively, especially at the end, they didn't take a lot of risks when it came to going after the football. If a ball is up in the air and it's a not perfectly placed ball from Purdy, why can't Reek Woolen go for the interception? Why can't Devin Witherspoon go for the ball? Peanut punch when a tackle's being made. Someone else on your team already has Kittle wrapped up. Come in there as the second or third guy in and throw that punch at the ball. In my eyes, if you can get more turnovers, that's going to lead to more possessions for your offense. That's going to lead to more time of possession for your offense, and it leads to the San Francisco defense being more tired. In my eyes, you got to take advantage of that as well. So those are the 3 big ones to me. I think if you can load the box and stop Christian McCaffrey, it's not an attack on Brock Purdy. I actually do think he's a very talented QB.
They're short at wide receiver. Yeah.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
In my eyes, Brock Purdy can't throw the ball to George Kittle 30 times in this game. You don't have the receiver depth right now. No offense to MVS. We cut him.
Yeah.
He wasn't good enough to make our squad. You have to use him right now. How can Seattle take advantage of that? Load the box, force Purdy to throw. You're not going to beat them because of Purdy. You have an opportunity to beat San-Fran because of the wide receiver depth. So those are my top 3, and then loading the box will be 4 for me as well when it comes to keys to the game.
Good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we do here at Chat Sports. We have a bunch of people who know ball, love talking ball, and this is a preview of what you're going to see all year. When we have a host for a channel out there for the opposition that the Niners are going to take on, we're going to bring them on here on the show. If you enjoyed this type of content, I want you to type me down in the comment section. Shout out to all the real ones for tuning in. Subscribe to Seahawks Today if you're watching on the Seahawks channel. Subscribe to the 49ers Report if you're watching on the Niners Report. And we'll see you Sunday. Can't wait for this one. Niners on the road against the Seahawks, one of the best rivalries in the NFL.